What's up, guys, and welcome back to MoAn Inc. If you guys are new here, then hello. My name is Erica, and it's a pleasure to have you joining me today on the channel, because for today's video, as you can see from the title, we are going to be discussing these, plus one, actually. Should really make space and edit it in. These books that are sitting next to me today. But before we can get into all of this lovely stuff, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you know every single time I post in the future. And now that you have so kindly joined this nerdy little corner of the internet, let's get into today's video. So, okay, we can now get a bit chaotic now that I've trapped you all into the video. Today's books are The Silent Patient, The Maidens, and The Fury. All of them by Cypriot author Alex Michaelides or Michaelides. Okay, so let's just start off by saying in one other video here on the channel, I have said Michaelides. It's only because I have a British Greek friend who looked at that name and who said, "Hey Erica, it's Michaelides." And I was like, okay. But then I've been to a live event with Alex and I've listened to multiple podcasts and multiple different YouTube interviews and all of that kind of stuff. Everybody says Michaelides. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce it, so I will just be saying Alex throughout the video, and it's only because I have definitely done this to myself where I overthink names and I don't actually know Alex, so I always feel weird using first names in videos, but I will be using the first name. That was a really long way of saying I'm just going to be saying Alex throughout this video. If you have any other thoughts on the name, let me know in the comments. But on to the books. The books today are The Silent Patient, The Maidens, and The Fury, and I will not be giving you guys any spoilers because these books are thrillers. They are like your classic whodunit kind of books, right? There's a murder in all of them, and we've got to figure out which of the characters, or maybe in The Silent Patient's case anyway, who of the wide characters that are presented in the book are responsible for these killings. Cool. If you like Agatha Christie or anything kind of along those lines, you will love these books because in a similar vein, they are not a series, they are all standalones. However, they all kind of work within the same world, and by world, obviously I don't mean a fantasy world. All of these books are set in the regular modern day, but they do include similar characters. And so from the main character, Theo, in the first book, we do hear about him in The Fury. Same with Mariana in book 2, who's our main character. She is mentioned briefly in the first book. Either way, she's mentioned again. What I'm trying to say is that all standalones, you could start at any point of the 3 books that have already been published by Alex, but they do not lead on from one another. So there's no real commitment. You know when you get into a series and you see that there are 12 books and you're on book 2 and you're like, what did I do? Why did I do this to myself? You don't have that problem here, so don't you worry. So what are all these books about though within this genre? If you guys are still here, it means you guys are intrigued. The Silent Patient, which is the first book, follows Theo, our main character, who's a psychotherapist, and he works at Broadmoor, which if you guys don't live in the UK, because a number of my audience are from America, that's a very big hospital here in the UK. It's a very famous hospital in the UK, and it takes the hardest cases, really. So Theo is a psychotherapist there. But he's been very intrigued by the case of this woman who they know murdered her husband, but they don't know why. And that's because right after this murder happened, she hasn't said a word in 6 years. I mean, it's mental, okay? And she's been at this other hospital the whole time where they've been trying alternate therapies on her to get her to say literally anything. And Theo has been watching this case, and when he sees that a position has opened at the hospital, he quits his job at Broadmoor to go and see if he can get to the bottom of this case and figure this out, right? This is something that has intrigued him. He wants to see if he can help not only the patient, but also uncover the case because no one knows why she's done something. Now, when it comes to this case, the only thing that she's done, the only thing that the main character who hasn't spoken has done is painted a piece, and that's because she's an artist. And the piece is titled Alcestis. We're finally getting onto the links. I'm so excited. So the piece is titled Alcestis, and that's the last thing that she's managed to say. And this piece is really what helps the story kind of unfold. it leads, obviously, Theo to reading the Euripides play Alcestis to try and figure out if there's anything in there that can help him understand what's gone on with this woman. So that's book one. I literally can't see anything else. But moving into the maidens, we then have the main character, Mariana, who prior to the narrative of the story has lost her longtime partner. And the two of them looked after, or were very fond of, her niece. Her niece is a student at Cambridge. That's where Mariana had met her ex-partner now. And whilst her niece is at Cambridge, she rings up Mariana to say there have been murders here on campus. And they're murders of her friends. So the niece is absolutely distraught. Mariana is a group therapist, and so she goes initially to kind of just support her niece. However, as the story unfolds, Mariana thinks that she knows who's committed these murders and who's actively making the situations worse as well. And so she decides that she is going to kind of play detective throughout the book. So that is book number 2. Right? No link to book number 1, completely different story, mad story, mind you. That was the first one that I read that got me into this whole, at the moment, trilogy of books, but will continue as Alex continues writing. And the last book, The Fury, just came out, is it a month ago? 2 months ago? I don't know when I'm actually uploading this video, so it could be 1 or 2 months ago. At the time of recording, it was exactly a month ago that The Fury came out. And The Fury is such a classic case of like a murder mystery book. The book centers around a movie star who owns an island in Greece, and she brings a bunch of her friends to the island. So they're all trapped on the island, and obviously there's a murderer among them. So those are the 3 books, and that's pretty much all I can say about the 3 books without giving anything away, which I really don't want to do. So just a reminder here that if you guys do have any comments about the books and you want to leave them in the comments below, please start the comment with spoiler comment or just spoilers ahead or something so that we don't ruin the books for anybody else. I will be deleting comments that do not have that because I don't think it's fair to everybody who hasn't read the books and is just here for a little bit of a chit chat. So anyways, when it comes to these books, why am I talking about them on the channel? Right, my channel is mostly looking into mythology retellings or books that seem to be centered around reconstructing Greek myths or historical fiction, that kind of a sense, right? Like that's why you guys tune in. Well, you know, when I started this channel, I was really intrigued by the idea of taking Greek myths, taking ancient stories, taking ancient histories, and updating them in really, really subtle, beautiful ways for modern audiences. And that is something that I think Alex does brilliantly with these books. As you heard from the first book, Alcestis is used throughout the story, but it's not a retelling. It's not a retelling at all. If you know the play of Alcestis, that does not give anything away for the silent patient. However, it is used as a tool. The text is used as a tool to help Theo and sort of guide him to getting into the head of his patient, which is a really nice nod to the ancient world. It's a totally different story. I had no idea where it was going. I also incorrectly assumed it was a certain character the whole time. Like the whole time I was reading it, I was like, it's definitely him. It's definitely him. It was not. I was completely wrong. Even though I know the play, I know the analysis surrounding the play, it does not play a role in the actual narrative. And the same with the Maidens. The Maidens also uses Greek tragedy. Various different plays in the Maidens are used when these murders start happening around Cambridge. So there are clues that are sort of dropped in. There are phrases that are left around, whether it be in the Greek or whether it be in translation. The professor who's sort of around this time, and I'm trying not to ruin it. This is very difficult. He is a professor of ancient Greek tragedy, so it's there. But let me tell you, the ending of The Maidens blew my little brain. I still don't really believe what happened with The Maidens. But what I'm trying to say is that the tragedy plays that are included do not drive the story whatsoever. They're littered in as like interesting sort of little things around the narrative. Fun things for like us nerds to find, but you can still enjoy the story and not have anything given away, even by the nods to the ancient world. Now, when it comes to the Fury's a little bit different. let's start with the Silent Patient and the Maidens. When it comes to nods to the ancient world and when it comes to enjoyability, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, whatever it is that you rank your books out of, I give it full stars. I mean, it was brilliant. I was gripped. I read both of those books within, like, I think I read the Silent Patient in 1 day and I read the Maidens in 2. I read the Maidens last year and I think it was 2. I'd have to double check with my boyfriend because he was there as I was screaming at the pages. But it was very, very quick and I loved it. And when it came to the Fury, I loved the Fury as a story. Like, the wackiness of that book. There was no way in a million years I would have guessed all of the plot twists of the Fury. Honestly, every single chapter I was like, I'm sorry, you what? In like the best of ways, right? I want to clarify. It was brilliant and I was completely gripped. I couldn't put it down. The only reason why I waver a little bit when I talk about the Fury is because we're all nerds here. We're all here for the same reasons. I know you, I got you. Which means that an element that I liked about the previous 2 was that there was a lot of ancient Greece thrown in there. And Alex, being from Cyprus, he's very familiar with all of these things. And so they all seemed very natural, like littering them all into the story. It seemed like a very normal thing for him to do. It wasn't forced. It added so much nuance to the story, but it wasn't the story itself. And when it came to the Fury, I think if I wasn't such a nerd, I wouldn't be not critical of it because I still gave it 5 stars. On Goodreads, I mean, my jaw was on the floor. Like I said, all of the plot twists, blew me away. It was a fantastic read. But it didn't have as many nods to the ancient world. It didn't really have any, if I'm being completely honest. And I obviously have to be forthcoming about that with you guys as nerds, because I don't want you guys going into the Fury assuming what I assumed. And I know, by the way, that the Fury, because I had gone to an interview, like I'd watched an interview at Waterstones Piccadilly with Alex and somebody else. I'm so sorry, I completely forgot who actually chaired that event, but Alex had this interview and he said that the Fury was a name for the wind of, the Greek island that they're on. If you guys have been to the Greek islands, wind is crazy. So he called it the Fury for that reason. But I assumed there was going to be nods to the Furies, right? To the Eumenides. And I don't think that was such a stretch for me to assume that possibly Alex would have been alluding a lot to this idea of the Furies in the Oresteia. Now that didn't happen whatsoever, but I think if you had, especially with these people trapped on the island, and if you had little nods to the idea of the wind also whispering to everybody the guilt of the characters, the revenge arc sort of, was there a revenge arc? Could you call it a revenge arc? Oh God, I guess it was a revenge arc in a weird way. I'm not gonna call it a revenge arc. No, I think that's overcomplicating it. I just assumed that there would be more nods based on the name. If the name wasn't the Fury, my nerd senses wouldn't have been tingling and I would have just enjoyed the story as is. But do I think that if we had some nods to the Furies, some nods to the craziness that Orestes goes through in the Oresteia, do I think it would have been a little bit apparently we're just doing onomatopoeia today, but do I think it would have been slightly more impactful? There we go. That's not onomatopoeia, thankfully. Yes, I do think that. But I love these books because I think that they embody a lot of what I initially wanted this channel to be. And what it didn't end up being, which is completely okay, because maybe that was a little bit too subtle to sort of have a whole channel around the idea of where can I find these mythological stories? Where can I find nods to the ancient world in places that people don't realize that they're there? It's a stretch a little bit. I totally get that. But these books really embody that thought process that I had when setting up the channel. And therefore, they are books that I will continue to scream about. I mean, I love these books. I will love anything that Alex puts out in the future. So I'm really, really excited to see what comes up from Alex next. So, all that to say, yes, buy these books, 10 out of fucking 10. I am obsessed and I will be obsessed with these books for a while. So if you guys want to find links to The Silent Patient, The Maidens, or The Fury, please check out the description below, along with all the other links to my other socials, so you guys can find my Goodreads down there where I upload as I read, so you guys can be like ahead of the game, as well as my Instagram where I do tend to upload the photos of books prior to the reviews coming out. It just happens that way. It's not intentional, but if you guys want to be ahead of the game, Goodreads or Instagram are probably great places to find me. But with all of that, I will love you and leave you. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll be seeing you next time with more videos here on MoAn Inc. I'll be seeing you guys then.